Star Walker Studios presents Game Master's Journey, your multi-dimensional RPG podcast. One of the many things I love about D&D 5th edition is the ease with which you can create balanced encounters. Today, I set off again on the Obsidian Monolith to create the first encounters in my new D&D campaign, and I take you along for the ride. So join me on the journey. Together, we can become game masters truly worthy of the title. Hello, listener. Greetings, fellow GM and or player. Welcome to episode 65 of Game Master's Journey, your multi-dimensional RPG podcast. I'm your host, Lex Starwalker, and I'm transmitting to you today from the Obsidian Monolith, somewhere outside time and space. So this is part 2 of my 2-part series where I am building encounters for my first D&D adventure for my new D&D campaign in my new D&D campaign world, Primordia. So lots of new stuff going on, which definitely makes me happy. So today I'm going to go through the second and third encounters, and I discuss some other things along the way, some of my philosophy of game preparation and how to prepare encounters for your gaming sessions. I talk about my slight variation on the inspiration mechanic that I use in my game, some thoughts on designing adventures and tailoring them to your players, and also some, I think, interesting analysis of things like how many encounters PCs can handle in a day compared with the number of encounters they need to level. And also at the very end, I will have a little commentary on how these encounters work, because as of now, I've run them for my players, so I can talk about how they went compared to what I expected. So I've kind of been, I don't know if I've totally explained this, but the way I'm doing this campaign, and this is totally different from the way I've ever done a campaign before, but I'm looking for cool monsters. So that's what I'm doing right now. And I figured that I can have about 5 of these encounters with a CR2 encounter before the PCs have earned enough XP to get to level 3. At which point, now I can start using CR3 monsters. So I'm thinking, at most I'm going to get to use 5 of these guys. So I made a list of all the CR2 monsters I thought were remotely cool or interesting. And then from that list, I made a shorter list of my favorites of those CR2 monsters that were at least somewhat interesting. And then from that list, I'm going to pick, up to 5. And I'm kind of picking them by order of coolness. And I started with the Gibbering Mouther. And what I'm thinking is, doing the horror and the scary thing. So I had a few undead in this list. So in my kind of short list of mildly interesting, at least CR2 creatures as far as undead, we've got the, we've got the Carrion Crawler. This isn't undead, but it's a creature that's going to oftentimes be found in places where undead are. So it works well with undead, and it's kind of scary. So I'm thinking I'm going to do a Carrion Crawler encounter. And let's see, Ghast is a CR2, and that's undead. And I could have some ghouls with the Ghast if I can have more than just the Ghast in the encounter. The Gibbering Mouther, which we just did. Well, he's not undead, but again, kind of fits with the horror theme. Minotaur Skeleton is an undead CR2, and obviously we could have weaker skeletons that would be less than CR2 and have multiples of them. And Poltergeist, which is a specialized form of a specter, is CR2, and also Will-O-Wisp is undead. I don't always think the Will-O-Wisp is fey, but it's undead. So I could do the Gibbering Mouther encounter, Carrion Crawler encounter, an encounter with Ghast and maybe ghouls, an encounter with a Minotaur skeleton and maybe some other weaker skeletons, and an encounter with a Will-O-Wisp. And that is 5 CR2 creatures, some of them with companions that I think are cool and that have this kind of horror theme that brings them together, so I can easily make an adventure with these. So just kind of thinking of some preliminary ideas of what that adventure could be. One idea is, through all this, I'm kind of picturing this small village that the PCs start at, like it's graveyard, which I imagine in this world, a graveyard would not be in the village. It would probably be a decent way away from the village. Maybe, I don't know, an hour or two walk away, even that far. Just because, you never know. And you don't want the dead raising, in the middle of your village. So maybe I could do this thing of something happens and there's, disturbances at this graveyard. And so the PCs are asked to go deal with that. And one thing I'm actually stealing from the Witcher game that I really like is, in Witcher, there are contracts. So like you go into like a little village and they'll have like a notice board. I mean, it's very video gamey, right? But they have a notice board with, notices. And some of them might be like, I'm looking for a babysitter on Saturday night. And one might be, I lost my wedding ring. Let me know if you've seen it, or has anyone seen little Tommy, stuff like that. But then sometimes there will be ones that are actually, in the game, they call them contracts. I think the word bounty would make more sense. They're like these bounties for the Witchers, or in my world, the adventurers, that is someone offering to pay one or more of these people a certain amount of money to do something. And a lot of times it's, this monster was seen in this area and we need someone to take care of it, but it could be find someone who's missing. It could be, anything that an adventurer could be good at doing. And it will usually say, I will pay this much, So this could be, one of the things that I come up with. And, for the first adventure, I might just, be like, hey, are you guys cool with doing this? And just saying that this is the one, or maybe it's the only one. Because I'm thinking this will be a small village and the PCs are either all from there or they're all there at this time for some reason. So this could easily be the only thing that's going on, right? And it's like, well, basically you guys are going to sit around in a tavern in this little podunk village and drink all night, or you can go do this job and make some money. So I think they'll probably go for it. And besides, it's kind of like the adventure guys. If you just want to role play in the bar all night, I mean, that's fine. We can do that. But if you want to actually like adventure, like this is kind of it. I mean, I guess you could go out. I mean, see, that's the thing is, I can have stuff like that. But if they're like, we really don't want to check out this graveyard, then I can just be like, okay, fine. What do you want to do? And if they just want to fight or they just want something cool to happen, all they have to do is leave town, and they go out in the wilderness for long enough or go down the road, because there will be some roads, I think, in my world, but they'll be very, very badly maintained. And people won't use them very often. They will definitely not be patrolled or anything approaching safe, but they may exist just as a way to get from A to B. If you're crazy enough to go that way. For the adventurers are the ones that use the roads, I guess. But all they have to do is leave town and they're going to encounter something that wants to eat them or just rip them into pieces for the fun of it. So, and then I can still use the same monsters I was going to use in the graveyard, and now they just encounter them wherever they go. And then later, if they go to the graveyard, I'll have new things ready for them, right? So yeah, that's one of those DM tricks. Sometimes you can just do what you're going to do, no matter what the PCs are, it's like, I am going to throw these creatures at them tonight. And, I'm really comfortable with these creatures and how I'm going to fit them together and like how to use them in different environments and where they might be and what makes sense, to where I'm just comfortable letting the PCs do whatever they want. And I just wait for the right time to spring whichever encounter, when it makes sense. And I've run a lot of sessions like that where I'm just like, okay, the PCs are in this town and I have a few encounters in mind that I want to run. And maybe it matters what order, maybe it doesn't. Maybe I don't even care if they do, I just have some possibilities. And then I just look, I just let the PCs role play and just tell me what they're doing and respond to what they're doing. And I just look for a good opportunity to use any of those encounters and then just boom, drop it on them, And that way you still get to use what you prepared, and you're not like preparing stuff and then never using it, which is a waste of time, but you're still not like forcing the PCs to do things a certain way. You're letting them kind of take control and direct things. And then you're just putting these obstacles you've created in front of them, and it's like, at the end of the day, it's like you're accomplishing the same thing. You're really doing the same thing, but it just psychologically, it just, it's just better because the players feel like they're directing and they are, because you're using these few encounters that you were going to use, but you're still having to come up with the NPCs that are wherever they decide to go and interact with them and so they are directing things. It's just, just because you let the players go the direction they want to go doesn't mean you have to throw all your prep out the window. If you do your prep right, you can use it no matter what, and any like encounters or anything that you come up with that you don't use, you keep, and every session you're looking for a chance to use this pool of stuff that you've got, and maybe some things just never get used. And then those you just save for the next campaign. But that's kind of how I try to look at it, because you never know what the PCs are going to do. There's no way to predict that. So I just, I actually think, I'm like, okay, I have a session coming. How many encounters do I think they can get through? Okay, we're playing 4 hours. I'm guessing 3 or 4 encounters in 4 hours, probably, like full encounters. That's probably a good guess. Maybe 5 if they're just powering through stuff. It's hard to imagine doing more than 5 encounters in 4 hours. I don't think I remember that ever happening. So I would say, okay, so probably 3 or 4, maybe 5. So I will at least have 5 encounters prepared, right? And then if they do 5 by some odd stroke of efficiency, then I've got 5 for them, right? Most likely though, they're going to do 3 or 4. And then I have 1 or 2 encounters left over that I didn't use, that we didn't have time for, that we'll get to next week, right? And then the next week, I'm like, okay, I think they'll get through 3 or 4 encounters. I've got 2 left over from last week. So I'll make sure I have at least 5. So I need to come up with at least 3 more encounters, right? So every week I have just a little bit more than I think I'll need, but never much more than that. And the encounters themselves, I try as much as I can to make them kind of modular. So, there's more than one way or more than one time I can use them. Now, you're constantly throwing out things to the players. And, I almost see it like you're in the woods and you're trying to get like a creature, like a forest animal to follow you. And so you're like throwing out pieces of food. And you're like throwing out all these, because like you don't know what this animal is, you don't know what it likes. And I'm not trying to insult PCs here. It's just how I think of it. So you're throwing out like, oh, I'll try candy. I'll throw out a piece of candy. I'll throw out a vegetable. I'll throw out a piece of fruit. I'll throw out some meat, trying all these different things and seeing which they go for. And then, oh, it eats the meat. So I'm going to throw out more meat now, right? Because I know it likes meat, and that's kind of how I see like adventure design is, you start out just kind of trying to do a little bit of everything and just throw out possible plot threads that could be plucked up. And then once the PCs start responding to one or more of those plot threads, then you kind of more focus on those, because it's like, oh, they're interested in this, so I'm going to develop this more now and come up with more stuff along this path. So yeah. All right, so we've got Gibbering Mouther. So let's see, this is a medium to hard encounter. And again, if it's just the Mouther by itself, it's medium. If I end up throwing in the Sturge, it then becomes hard. And another thing I wanted to keep in mind here is the Adventuring Day. I just love that it has all this stuff in the DMG. So, Adventuring Day for these guys, level 2, 4 characters, is 6 to 8 medium or hard encounters in one day. For a total of 2,400 XP a day. So the 6 to 8 is some little permutations I did to kind of grasp like how many encounters they can handle in a day. So basically they can handle the whole level's worth of 5 encounters in one day. Theoretically, we'll see how the XP comes out. So this encounter we just did with the Mouther, again, it's 450 XP without the Sturge, 475 with it. And yeah, they can go 2,400 in a day. So we'll see. So that's encounter 1. Not to say it's going to be the first encounter, just it's the first one I did. So next, let's do the Will-O-Wisp. Because this is another one that I think will probably just be the Will-O-Wisp by itself. Because Will-O-Wisps are usually pretty badass. I know they're pretty damn badass in Pathfinder. I seem to remember them being scary in 2nd edition too. Alright, so these guys, armor class 19, wow. That's gonna be challenging to hit at 2nd level. Not impossible, but challenging. Hit points 22. They're immune to lightning and poison. They have resistance to acid, cold, fire, necrotic damage, thunder, bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical weapons. Oh, that's nuts. So they're going to be doing half damage because they're probably not going to have a magical weapon. Wow. They're also immune to exhaustion, being grappled, paralyzed, poisoned, prone, restrained, or unconscious. Dark vision 120 feet. Of course, that doesn't so much matter in my world because you don't really need dark vision. Well, I guess it's better. You can see better, but everybody can see at night. Okay, Consume Life ability as a bonus action. It can target one creature it can see within 5 feet of it that has 0 hit points and is still alive. The target must succeed on a DC 10 Constitution save against this or die. Wow. If the target dies, the Will-O-Wisp regains 10 hit points. This is a CR2? Whoa. Alright, let me go over that again. Let's see. Oh, okay, that's right. It's only if they have 0 hit points, and so basically they're at 0 and either stabilized or they're making death saves. It can basically insta-kill them then. And it's a bonus action, so it can still attack and do that. DC 10 con save. Wow, you better hope you have inspiration if that happens. Oh my god. And even then, I mean, it's a 50-50 chance. You could easily fail the save. Well, I guess 50-50 with no bonus, but not everybody's going to have a con bonus. Most people, +1 maybe. Still, it'd be totally possible to fail the first save and then fail the second one too with the inspiration. Or wait, am I getting confused? That's right, inspiration gives you advantage. I do inspiration a little bit different. I do it a little bit more kind of like how Numenera works with the spending XP for a reroll. By the rules in D&D, you are supposed to declare inspiration before you roll. So you get to roll with advantage, but of course there's a possibility that that first die you roll really well and you wouldn't have needed the inspiration, right? Which would be kind of a little bit of a bummer, but I guess less of a bummer than if you fail even with rolling 2 dice with advantage. But the way I've been doing it is I let you instead use inspiration after the roll. So you never have the risk of, quote unquote, wasting your inspiration on a roll that would have succeeded anyway. So you get to roll, and if you fail the roll, you can then spend your inspiration and roll again. So instead of rolling 2 20s at once, you roll the first one, and then you spend inspiration to roll the second one. So that's just the way I'm not sure if I'll keep doing it that way. That might be a little overbalanced. I don't know. What do you think? Let me know. GameMastersJourney@gmail.com. So yeah, the Will-O-Wisp, I don't know. That may be too much for him. It's a 19 to hit it, and it's, it's immune, or not immune, but it has resistance to like non-magical weapons, acid, cold, fire, necrotic, thunder. So it's like, what at second level, what could you do damage to it with that it's not going to be resistant to? Or you could do lightning. Oh, it's immune to lightning, by the way, and poison. So let me see, is there anything that it's not? Yeah, you've got acid, lightning, cold, fire, thunder, poison, necrotic. Like, that's every damage type, isn't it? Slashing, piercing, bludgeoning. I think it is. So it's either immune or resistant to every kind of damage unless you have a magical weapon. Which is second level, I don't think they're going to have a magical weapon. So that means they have to hit a 19 armor class, and then they're only doing half damage. And it's got 22 hit points. So not a ton of hit points, but when you're only doing half damage, and probably out of 4 players, maybe one of them, 2 of them tops, is actually hitting and doing damage at all in a round, 22 hit points is kind of a lot. See, and this, again, is 450 XP, which by the thing is only a medium encounter. I think it should be hard. I don't know, maybe I'm underestimating second level characters. Oh yeah, and it life drains. So if it actually does kill someone who's making their death saves with its consume life ability, it heals some. Yeah, I'm going to put it in here, but I'm going to write a little note to myself that this could be a TPK if I use this, if they don't have any magic items, any magic weapons. It might be fun to use, though, just to see, is this as tough as I think it's going to be? Yeah, I'm being very experimental with this campaign. I really want to feel like I know D&D 5th edition when I finish this. So I'm going to try this by the rules. They should be able to handle it. So we're going to try it, and we'll see how they do. Will-O-Wisp, okay, but just Will-O-Wisp. I am not gonna add anything. All right, so I wrote possible TPK if they don't have magic weapons, and yeah, so we are looking at 450 XP. So at this point with these 2 encounters, we're at 900 XP. Of the 2,400 they can handle in a day. I did make that for the entire party, right? I did that a long time ago. I'm going by a little chart I made of how many encounters they can handle in a day. So let's check this just to make sure that that's the amount for the total party and not just per character. So this is on page 84 of the DMG, the section called the Adventuring Day. So yes, second level is 600 XP per character per day. So yeah, I took that times 4 and got 2,400. All right, you know what I would like to know though is how much XP do they need as a party to level? That's another good number to know. Obviously you start the game with 0 XP, and I believe it takes 300 to get to level 2. And then I think it's 900 to get to level 3, right? So 600 XP each. Is it really that little? I'd better check. But if it is, that's 2,400 XP, which is the number they can handle in a day. Isn't that interesting? You know what? It is 600, which means that the amount of XP that a character needs to level to the next level is exactly the same as the adjusted XP per day per character that a character can handle in the Adventuring Day section for second level and for first level. So I will have to compare the others to see, because if that's true through all the levels, then that means that if as a GM you're trying to make every encounter actually a challenge, and really throwing what the PCs can handle at them in an adventuring day, so they can't just alpha strike on everything, that they're basically, for every day they adventure, they're gonna level. So in game time, actual time that they're doing things that leads to them leveling is 20 days to get from level 1 to 20. That surely surely can't be the case. So we are going to find out. All right. So to get to level 3 is 600. That's the same. To get to level 4 is... Oh, nope. It diverges already. So 2700 minus 900 is 1800. So it takes 1800 XP to get from level 3 to level 4. But the amount of XP per day a character can handle in encounters at level 3 is only 1200. All right. So that's good. I'm glad that they're diverging. Hopefully they diverge more. Let's just see what the pattern is. We'll do one more. So to go from level 4 to level 5 is 6,500 minus 2,700 is 3,800. And what you can handle at 4th level in an adventuring day is 1,700. So yeah, it is diverging more and more with each level. So that's good. So it's only at the very low levels that you could conceivably level after a day of adventuring. It's only at 1st and 2nd level. So that's good. And that's, we don't want to be at 1st and 2nd level forever anyway. And I'm glad to look at that. I also wanted to look at how the XP that you get for a monster of your CR, how that growth through the levels compares to the number of XP you need to level. Right. So, which is to say, at level 2, it takes 5 CR2 encounters to level. So does that relationship, is it 5 encounters of your level to level each? Like if I'm 19th level, is it only 5 level 19 encounters to get me to 20th level? Or, do those diverge as well? So I'd like to figure that out. I mean, I guess I could real quick. So now I got to compare my shit everywhere. Got to compare the monster manual with the player's handbook. See how crazy I do this. All right. I like to know these things though. All right. Experience points by CR rating. So 3rd level party to get to level 4 takes 1800 XP. 3rd level party or a third, God, if I could talk, a CR3 is worth 700 XP. So I take 1800 XP to get from 3rd to 4th level. A CR3 encounter is worth 700, so I take 1800 divided by 700. 2.5. Oh, that'd be one character by himself, right? So if you could take on an encounter equal to your level all by yourself, you would only need 2.5 to get to from level 3 to level 4. Okay, so let's redo this. Okay, so a CR3 is 700, and then we would divide that by 4 characters is 175. So now we take that 1800 divided by 175, because that's what they would actually get for it. 10.2, so it is diverging. So at level 2, it only takes you 5 CR2 encounters to get to level 3. But once you're 3rd level, it takes 10 CR3 encounters to get you to level 4. Yep. So it does seem to diverge. Now, the XP is a little weird in 5th edition. If you make a chart showing each level and how much XP it takes to get from one level to the next, it's weird. It doesn't, each level is not more than the level behind it. And sometimes to go from one level to another, it's hard to explain it without having the chart, and I don't have the chart anymore. You have to make the chart to see what I'm saying, but this isn't true. I'm just hypothetically, like, it might take 3,000 XP to get from level 6 to level 7, but then to get from like level 10 to 11, it's like 2,750 or something. Like it's weird like that. So I'm not sure what that's about. I know there's a reason. I just haven't figured it out yet. If you know the reason, email me. GameMastersJourney@gmail.com. You know that, right? All right. So we got Gibbering Mouther and Will-O-Wisp. We're at 900 XP towards our adventuring day. I tell you what, facing a Gibbering Mouther and a Will-O-Wisp in the same day, level 2, that is a really, really bad day. You are having a bad day if that happens to you. All right. Next, how about the Carrion Crawler? It's a whole new kind of evil. Actually, I don't think they're evil. All right, Player's Handbook, we don't need you anymore. All right, Carrion Crawler. Why do I keep looking these up? Well, I want to look at what the thing can do, but I always look at the XP, and it's always the same, 450, because they're all CR2. So every one of these is the same XP wise. So now again, I'm just kind of looking through the creature to see what it can do, to see if I can throw some minions in, because if I can, I want to, because it makes the encounter more interesting, right? Especially if I can think of things that make sense that they would be there with a Carrion Crawler. And it's also not just everybody beating on one thing, it just makes things more interesting. So I want to look and see, if I can do that. But already we've seen, like with the Will-O-Wisp, even though XP wise I should have been able to add like a CR 1/2. I don't think I want to. I mean, we'll see. I'm afraid just throwing the Will-O-Wisp by itself at them. They're only going to be doing half damage to it. It's got 22 hit points, 19 armor class. Yeah. And it's really scary. It's a killer, guys. It's a killer. All right. Carrion Crawler, armor class 13, so it's not going to be super hard to hit. Dark vision 60 feet. Everything in here's got dark vision. Of course, it doesn't matter so much in my world, although they could be underground in some crypt or something. Keen smell, not a big deal. Spider climb, not a big deal. Multi-attack, attacks with tentacles and with bite. Tentacles, they do a D4 plus 2 poison. So you have to make a DC 13 con save if it hits you with a tentacle, or be poisoned for a minute. Oh, being poisoned in this game sucks. Do you know what that does mechanically, being poisoned? I don't remember off the top of my head, so I will look it up real quick. The conditions, if you didn't know, are in the back of the book. Appendix A, page 290 of the player's handbook. So poisoned, it's actually pretty nasty. Poison's actually on 292. But they start on 290, the conditions. Poisoned. A poison creature has disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks. So not saving throws, because 5th edition attack rolls, ability checks, saving throws are your two main types of rolls that you make, and they're all different. So being poisoned, you have disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks. So that's, someone fails that save, that's going to suck. So yeah, tentacles do a little damage. And, nasty poison. So if they're poisoned, it lasts for a minute. Wait. Oh, it also paralyzes them. So you can't even attack anyway while you're paralyzed, so the disadvantage doesn't really matter. You do get to repeat the save every turn. So there's that. Which, I like that, failing a single roll, a single saving throw, and effectively being out of an entire combat and unable to do anything, really sucks. It does... nerf magic quite a bit for spellcasters that are PCs, because, your NPCs get to make that save every turn too. But I like it because, from the player side, at least you get to make that save every turn. At least you get to do something and you have some chance to snap out of it, whatever it is. And, from the GM side, the PCs have to use more resources because, the saves are going to be successful more often for the, or not successful more often, but, NPCs may eventually save versus a spell instead of they're just automatically affected the whole fight. So, you'll probably have to use more spells, more resources gone. So that's always good, I think. All right, so we've got the tentacle with the nasty poison that paralyzes you and poisons you. And we have the bite, which is 2d4 plus 2, so that's a bit of damage at second level, but that's it. So yeah, this isn't nearly as scary as a Will-O-Wisp, that's for sure. I don't think it's as scary as a Gibbering Mouther either. So, it kind of depends how the PCs do with the poison save, because, if one or more of them falls prey to the poison, actually, if there's 4 of them, I think if one of them falls prey to the poison, they'll be all right. But if 2 of them do or more, and they keep failing that save, that could be really bad. So, yeah, I don't know if I can safely put a minion in or not. What would go good with a Carrion Crawler? If I threw some other thing in here. Let's see. Well, they hang around carrion. Maybe like centipedes or something. I'm looking through the entry to see if it mentions any other creatures. Sometimes it will mention other creatures that it may be associated with. Let's see, where are giant centipedes in this book? That would kind of thematically fit. And they're usually not ridiculously powerful, you know, but could add a little danger to this encounter. All right, so here's just I have a feeling it's not under giant. Maybe like insect. I mean, they're not insects, obviously. Oh, you know, yeah, here we go. There's weird stuff at the back. Let's see, swarms. I bet they're back here. They're very back. Here we go, giant stuff. So giant constrictor snake, giant centipede. Oh, CR 1/4, 50 XP. Oh, but remember, we already know just adding, or no, I can add 125. Can I add a 50? I probably can. So let's see, that would bring me to 500. My multiplier would be 1.5 because that would be 2 creatures. So that would be a total of 750 XP, which brings me in the hard category, but not quite to deadly, but that's getting close. Deadly's at 800. So if I threw in a centipede, going by the numbers, it'd be a pretty tough encounter. I mean, so far I have a medium encounter and a medium or hard, depending on if I throw in the Sturge with the Mouther. So I think I want this to be scary and challenging. So I want this to be hard. So I'm going to do the giant centipede. But I know I can only do 1 times 1. And this will be a hard encounter. And looking here at the centipede, it just bites for 1d4 plus 2. It has poison too. DC 11 con save, so it's easier. Or take 3d6 poison damage. But it does not give you the poison state, just does the damage. If the poison damage reduces a target to 0 hit points, the target is stable but poisoned for 1 hour, even after regaining hit points, and is paralyzed while poisoned this way. Oh wow, that's kind of cool. So if the poison takes a PC out, and then another PC like heals them, they're still going to be paralyzed and poisoned. Yeah, we'll see. I have a feeling, I feel like these encounters are going to be harder than the encounter difficulty thing is saying. I mean, I've got 3 encounters now. I've got Gibbering Mouther and possibly a Sturge. If I do both the Mouther and the Sturge, that's supposed to be a hard encounter. Which, I mean, hard encounter, they should be able to do that, right? It's not deadly, but that's a little worrisome. I think just the Mouther by itself will be a challenge, which would be a medium encounter. Will-O-Wisp, medium encounter, and I'm just doing Will-O-Wisp, by the book. Supposedly I could throw Sturge or something in there with it, and it'd only be a hard, and they'd be okay, but they're not going to have any magic items, I'm pretty sure, so I think the Will-O-Wisp will be very challenging by itself. It'll be fun, though, especially since it can turn invisible. So, like, if they start doing well, it can just turn invisible and leave and come back later or something. It'll really ruin their day with that. And then we've got the Carrion Crawler that we just did, and that guy is, again, medium by himself, but I'm going to definitely throw in the Giant Centipede, which makes it hard. Now, I don't know. I have 3 medium to hard encounters here. Maybe I should not have them all be. So maybe I should do like an easy. But I just find easy encounters boring. If I was running an adventure and there's an easy encounter, I'd be like a published adventure. I'd be tempted to either make the encounter harder or just skip it or just like ask the players how they get past, because it's like, it's going to take way too much time to deal with this, and it's not going to be that much fun anyway, because it's not going to, nothing's really on the line because you guys are just going to mow through it. So yeah, I don't know. I tend to like to do medium and hard encounters, and maybe once in a while a deadly one just for fun. But yeah, I don't know. Let's see what else we got. So we got 3 encounters there. And let's see what our XP is at. So we've got 450 and 475 and 500. It's a total of 1425 divided by 4 players. It's 356 each, and they need 600. So this right there is halfway to the next level, a little over halfway. So 2, maybe 3, maybe they can do 6 before 3rd level. All right, so I've definitely cherry picked the ones I was most excited about. The Gibbering Mouther I was excited about, and the Will-O-Wisp I was excited about. Carrion Crawler, I just think, I'm not like super excited about it. Although now that I see how its poison works, it's pretty cool. But it fits thematically. So now we have the Ghast and the Minotaur skeleton. So again, these are all CR2. So with each one, I have the opportunity to have one other, weaker, less than CR1 creature with them, and have it be a hard encounter, or just have the CR2 and have it be a medium. So I think at this point, I'm going to just do the rest on my own, probably at another time. So maybe I'll record that too, if people want me to. Assuming I get this edited and out before I do that, which probably won't. But anyway, yeah. So, but I will definitely maybe bring you back for the next step once I have all my encounters. And then the next step will be to start thinking about environment. What kind of environment do I want this encounter to take place in? And again, I'm trying to make set piece encounters where each one is interesting, not just the monster, but also like where this is taking place, and always looking for ways to add mechanical effects from the environment. So maybe there are things there that the PC can use for cover, or maybe there's something going on like a storm or something that's going to make things more difficult, things like that. And also keeping in mind that if any of that gives one side an edge, either the PCs or the NPCs, then that will increase or decrease the difficulty of that encounter, which changes what that encounter is worth in XP as far as just balancing and knowing how much they can handle in a day. It doesn't change how much XP they get from the encounter. But, or maybe actually that might. Because it makes sense that they would get more XP if the encounter is harder, right? But yeah, I guess that would be bonus XP, right? So you'd have the XP from all the individual monsters or whatever that they defeated. And then you'd also have some bonus XP from, just it was harder because it was in the middle of the thunderstorm. So that makes sense. I don't know if I would remember to do that, but that would be cool to do as a GM. So once I have my 5 encounters in cool environments with maybe some situational effects that are going to affect this encounter in some way, shape, or form, then I look at those environments and, I'm kind of doing this all along, kind of thinking how I'm going to string these together, right? So, again, I kind of got this idea of like this graveyard where all this stuff is going to be taking place. So, that's an environment where all these things can happen. So I don't have to worry about, the PCs going from one place to a very different place. So, yeah. And I think actually the 3 encounters I've done so far, that's probably a session right there, easy. Because all 3 of those are going to be challenging. And yeah, and it's going to be fun because I don't think I'm going to let the PCs have any kind of a long rest during this. I may not even allow a short rest. We'll see. I mean, that like the long rest is just not going to happen, but the short rest could happen, if they're clever and figure out a way to make it happen, right? Always got to give them an out that they can find. All right, so wrap this up, and yeah, so that's probably I'm a good part in the planning my first adventure. It's about time to wrap up episode 65 of Game Master's Journey, but before I do that, as promised, I wanted to talk a little bit about how the actual gaming session went running these encounters. First of all, the first encounter I ran was the Gibbering Mouther, And I was a little concerned about it when I was making the encounter, as you heard in episode 64, worried that it might be too challenging for my party, and turned out it wasn't challenging at all. And I think the main thing that I missed when I was prepping it, that if I would have noticed this, I would have realized it wasn't going to be that challenging, is the fact that its attack bonus was only +2. So yeah, it did some good damage and it had some effects that could come into play, but it only had a +2 to hit. So my players actually ended up dealing with that encounter without, I think maybe one character took a small amount of damage, or they might have escaped completely unscathed. I don't remember for sure, but they didn't take much damage at all. One person did fall prey to the gibbering for one turn and was unable to act. That same character, unfortunately, also fell prey to the blindness from when it spit at him. So that was my player Kyle. He was having a rough night, failed some saving throws, but for the most part, everybody else didn't really have problems. The saves weren't that difficult, or they were able to make them. I did throw the sturgeon because it was such a cakewalk for them. I think the second or third round of combat, I threw in the sturge. Actually, I threw in 2 sturges because I ended up having 5 players instead of 4, and they didn't really add much. A couple of the characters had to spend their action to take out the sturges, but that was the extent of their impact on the encounter. They didn't do any damage to anyone or anything. So yeah, I was pretty disappointed with how that went. So I threw the will-o-wisp at them immediately. Like, they literally, I think, had maybe a round of downtime between the 2 encounters. And I basically said that the will-o-wisp was attracted by the sound of the fight and came to investigate and found juicy mortals to feast on. And the will-o-wisp was a bit more challenging. It dealt out some damage, and it was definitely induced some pucker factor when it did do some damage. But they handled that pretty easily as well. So I guess kind of my personal takeaway from this so far is that I think I can put a little more trust into the challenge system in 5th edition. It seems to be really well designed, and even though these 2 encounters, looking at them, I was thinking, I don't know, these might be too difficult. They weren't, and they were pretty much right in line with what the system was saying they should be. Now, one thing that I have noticed doing this in making the adjustments for having the 5th player is the game system is really designed for a group of 4. Numbers wise, as far as the encounters and the challenge ratings, it's really designed for a group of 4. So if you take a given monster, like let's say your characters are level 2, like mine were when I ran this adventure, and you're looking at challenge 2 creatures, which again is the highest challenge you should throw at a level 2 party. If you have 4 PCs, a challenge 2 creature by itself would be a medium encounter, which personally, that's about the easiest encounter I even want to deal with. Easy encounters are just, in my mind, a waste of time. They're not fun, and if all I need is to drain some resources, I can find a more creative way to do it than throwing an encounter at the PCs that isn't even going to be a challenge. So the problem is if you have 5 PCs in your group, then that challenge 2 creature is now an easy encounter. So, with a group of 4 PCs or less, you can just throw a single creature with a challenge rating equal to the party level, and it'll be a medium encounter. It's not going to be super challenging, but it's at least, somewhat challenging. But if you have 5 or more players, you can't do that. If you try to throw one CR2 at a level 2 party, it's going to be easy for them. So I found that, if you're thinking about how big should my group be, not only in D&D is 4 kind of the optimal number as far as, turns not taking too long and having enough people there to make it interesting, but not so many that it really slows down and gets annoying.
But it also, as far as the mechanics of the system, 4 is your optimal number because it's going to be easier to design encounters. With 5 or more characters, if you want the encounters to be at all a challenge, you're going to have to add some kind of minion to every single creature that you throw at them. You can't just throw 1 CR 2 creature at a level 2 party if you have more than 4 players. So that's something to bear in mind. So I have created some more encounters for this. In the game, we've gotten beyond what I talked about in this episode. And one thing that was kind of interesting was I did some kind of math error and was thinking that 3 specters would be a hard encounter, and threw 3 specters at them. It turned out 3 specters is actually a deadly encounter. So I miscalculated somewhere. And yeah, it was deadly. Two or 3 of the 5 players' characters went down during that encounter, and the only reason it wasn't a TPK, well, it wouldn't have been a TPK. The best possible outcome would have been there was 1 character that probably could have escaped because he had cast Expeditious Retreat, so could outrun the specters. But the other 4 characters, there's no way they're going to outrun flying incorporeal specters with a speed of 50. So they would have been killed, but luckily they fled from the area and the specters were not able to follow them beyond a certain point. So that was the only thing that avoided that, taking out 4 of the 5 characters. So yeah, definitely want to be careful with those deadly encounters. And if I would have realized it was deadly, I could have run it differently so that I wouldn't have had a possible TPK on my hands. But always good to check your numbers, right? So that's going to wrap it up for me for episode 65. You can reach me by email at gamemastersjourney@gmail.com. You can follow me on Google+, just search for Lex Starwalker. Follow me on Twitter at Lex Starwalker. Please visit the website, starwalkerstudios.com, for the show notes, lots of links. Also, in the show notes, you can find the Patreon button where you can learn about becoming a patron of the show. Really appreciate all the patrons. And you can also find our donate button. So I hope you have a chance to play your favorite RPG this week. I will be back soon with another episode of Game Master's Journey. Until then, game on.
This has been a Starwalker Studios production, your source for quality gaming and hobby podcasts.
This episode's music provided by Cloudwalker, Renfield, Transboy, and Ish. Please see the show notes for more details at starwalkerstudios.com/GameMastersJourney.